All right, good day, everyone. My name is Matt Fifer. Welcome to Conversations on Retail. We are here with another solution spotlight, and my guest today is Sam Pantazopoulos. She is the co-founder and CEO of Vizer. Sam, welcome. Thank you so much for making time to visit.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to chat.
Of course. So Vizer is a retail marketing intelligence platform helping consumer brands drive online shoppers in store. I want to spend just a few minutes right there sort of talking about what Vizer does. And then I want to hit the rewind button and go back in time because you've got a really interesting story. And I don't want to cheat our audience nor sort of diminish the life that you've had so far and the folks that have helped you along the way. So tell us a little bit about what Vizer is today.
Yeah, no, happy to give the overview and then jump way back in the story. But today, what we do is we help brands understand if their online marketing is driving shoppers in store so they can increase their sales in retail and ultimately perform successfully on shelf.
Yeah, that's great. So you come from an entrepreneurial family. I'm very curious at what point in your own life you sort of were attracted to the idea, where the idea of doing something on your own resonated with you. And were you an accidental entrepreneur, or was it something that was sort of always part of your plan? So talk a little bit about your dad and the family business and how it impacted you growing up.
Yeah, looking back, I don't think I knew at the time because I really wanted to be a dolphin trainer. Like that was the goal, marine biology, something in that world. But I think it's a Steve Jobs quote that it's really easy to connect the dots looking backwards. And it was actually
Mm,
quite obvious the entire time, probably, that I would end up an entrepreneur. My dad started his company with a carpet cleaning machine, and I watched that whole evolution. So it grew into a restoration business. And I was like right there as a co-pilot during that whole process. I thought it was so cool that you could own your schedule and you could make ideas come to life.
yeah.
So I would do my own little businesses when I was young. I had a day spa at one point in time. We had a lawn care business, just me and the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
And ironically, my childhood best friend who I did that with is now our COO. So
Is
came
that
full
right?
circle there too.
At what age did you begin to tinker?
These businesses would have been around 8 or 9, I
That's
think,
awesome.
that we were getting
Yeah.
started. And I would do yard sales to sell my toys so I could buy different ones. It was a variety of different industries I was exploring at a very young age.
Yeah, that's incredible. So a lot of kids, if I may, who grew up in entrepreneurial families are either super, super attracted to it because they see this great side of it, or there's others that would say, my gosh, that it's nothing but chaos. You can't count on it. You know, you're either way up or you're way down, and I just don't want any part of it. So your experience must have been okay.
Yeah, for me, it was always fun. I was creative as a kid, and I loved like making websites or making videos, anything that could bring an idea to life. So
Yeah.
the idea that you could do that as a job, I found really attractive because ideally, if you enjoy the work that you're doing, I think your life becomes more enjoyable than if you don't.
Yeah.
So this idea that my career could be playful and creative and strategic at the same time, I was really attracted to that
Yeah.
imagination component of it.
Yeah. So talk about your university experience. You said you were sort of on a marine biology track. Talk about how you started and sort of the evolution of that university experience.
Breaking up a bit, so I want to make sure I'm getting the full question. But I believe it was the university path.
Yeah, so you said I broke up?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, okay. All right, so I'm gonna do it again. Um, so tell me about your university experience, and did you begin your studies with the intention of going into that marine biology field? And at what point did you sort of change direction?
So I went to school for business. I studied business administration at the University of San Diego. I didn't know exactly what it would look like. So what's cool about business administration is you're testing a variety of different things. You take marketing classes, accounting. It wasn't until my junior year that I was studying abroad, and there was a social entrepreneurship club on the program that I was participating in. And I'd always had this inkling that entrepreneurship would be really cool. I didn't know what social entrepreneurship was or how that differed, but I signed up for the club anyways. And the whole thesis of the club was how could you use business to sustainably generate resources because that would allow you to create the most impact. And I just fell in love with that as a concept. So social entrepreneurship really picked up as a passion, I think, around that time period. And that's when I had the original idea for the company.
And that original idea was,
I hated working out, and we were supposed to come up with a problem that would solve something that we personally experienced, because the idea was that would keep you motivated through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So originally it was a consumer app where you could work out, you would have the ability to donate meals and then earn rewards from brands. And in theory, that would incentivize your exercise and motivate you to want to work out.
And so when did you launch that business?
So we launched our consumer app in January of 2019. And I would say by all outside indicators, it was successful. We built it for several years. We donated millions of meals, built an app user base of 150,000 people. And we'd been working on this rewards engine in the background for quite a while. So it started with the ability to go get a free coffee at the coffee shop. All restaurants shut down in March of 2020. We went to scale that nationwide. So we pivoted to D2C rewards, the ability to have something shipped to your home. And then eventually we pivoted to retail. So you could work out, donate, go to the store and get a free product. But we really were struggling with the marketplace dynamics. Like we couldn't figure out how to get the user base large enough to support the offers that were in the platform. Marketplaces are tricky. One of our advisors is from Uber. So this is like a classic challenge. How do you get both sides to grow at the same time? And although successful on the outside by all indicators, I knew we had hit a cap. Like we couldn't figure out how to continue to grow the user base. And it was our customers really that I think saw the forest through the trees first of, hey, this rewards engine that we've been working with you on is really powerful. And if we could expose that to people outside of your app, I think there's a huge opportunity to get people to use these rewards more. And we made the decision to move the rewards engine out of the app because there's 275 million shoppers on the open internet. It would take us lifetimes to grow that in a closed ecosystem. So we had been building in this direction for quite a while, but we weren't even entirely sure of where we were going until it started to manifest in our reality.
Yeah. So as you iterated on the business and moved more toward CPG companies and the consumer in that way, what did you learn early on? What were some of your early successes and maybe even failures if you had them?
So we had been working with consumer brands the entire time. Although it was a consumer app, I like to say it was a B2B2C platform. So we had users and then the brands were the ones that were really powering that experience and making it possible for everyone. Now it's primarily a B2B platform, but through that time period, I've just learned the value of working really closely with the brand and figuring out what are the challenges that you're trying to solve? How can we leverage the technology and the team we have to help alleviate those challenges? And really trying to understand exactly what is going to move the needle for the brand. If you give people the opportunity to be vocal, they will. So we really would try to devote time either in person or Zoom calls to do those customer discoveries and figure out what are the biggest pain points that you're having. We're interested in solving them. How can we help be a resource in that process? Yeah. And just knowing CPG is such a collaborative community that those conversations do become really productive.
Yeah. So what's your sweet spot as a company in terms of the size, the stage, the category of brands that you work with, and then sort of talk about what the experience with your organization looks like, the problems that you're solving and the way you go about solving them?
So it's really across the spectrum. I like to say if you walk into a retailer that accepts one of our offers, any product that you see on the shelf could in theory be using Vizer to support their presence on shelf. So we started in food and beverage, primarily drinks and snacks, coming from our experience on the consumer side of the fence. It's now evolved to household products and clothing and personal care. So quite literally anything you see could in theory use the technology. And what it's doing is it's allowing brands to create these digital offers that they can attach to any form of media to try to motivate that purchase in store. So rather than them being divided, as they have for quite a while, between, hey, I'm doing my digital media, but I don't really know, is this effectively driving people in store? How do I connect the two? They now can attach an offer and see, oh, okay, my paid media campaign is successfully driving traffic in store. And as a result, increasing sales and optimizing my marketing.
So highlight some of the retailer relationships that you have today, the ones that maybe would have the broadest appeal from a category standpoint.
So our offers are primarily accepted at conventional with a small footprint in drug. So places like Walmart, Kroger, Rite Aid, Albertsons, Safeway recently went live as a participating place that you could redeem your offers. And that just continues to expand. So as new retailers join the network, you're able to go redeem an offer at one of those retailers.
So the marketplace obviously continues to become more and more crowded with loyalty programs and incentive programs and various ways and technologies being leveraged to sort of drive shoppers to do something. What makes Vizer stand apart? What makes your business unique?
It's cool because it's such a big problem. If you think about it, like I think a lot of industries and SaaS platforms or B2B tools go for these small problems. So there's a lot of competition to be able to deliver value in a meaningful way. This is such a big problem. If you look at the size of the consumer packaged goods industry, if you look at the importance of being successful in retail, 90% of sales are happening in store. So although there are a variety of tactics that people are using across their trade promotions, I do think they coexist in a really interesting way. Where I would say we're differentiating is we're that are already existing. So rather than saying, hey, let's replace what you're doing over here, why don't we look at the parts of your media strategy that currently aren't shoppable in store? And how do we integrate that in a way to give you more data and allow you to turn those into converting channels? So anywhere in your media strategy, if your goal is to drive sales in retail, there's often an opportunity to add a Vizer offer in a way that could compel a transaction that may not occur absent that offer being there.
Yeah. What are some of the headwinds and tailwinds that you're seeing right now for CPG companies that are perhaps impacted in positive ways by what you and the team are doing at Vizer? What are you anticipating in the future?
I think it's a challenging time in the market in general. So we started our work with smaller brands, startups, the natural category. We now work with a variety of brands, but the capital markets have changed really significantly in terms of access to capital and how people are looking at capitalizing their businesses. I also think the marketing landscape has changed really dramatically. So campaigns that were successful on Facebook, for example, a few years ago, it's a much higher bar to get the same kind of return on your ad spend. So if you're a CPG, I think you're having to be more mindful of your spend than ever before. What are you investing in? Is there a clear ROI? Should we continue investing in those channels? And if you also look on the consumer side, right? Like prices are increasing. Chocolate, for example, is getting incredibly expensive. And it's such a key ingredient in so many brands' portfolios. You have all of these factors that are complicating the goal, which is how do we spend as little as possible to make as much as possible so we have the most resources to reinvest. So those are the things I would be looking at as a brand, which is, okay, where are my costs running out of control? How do I get my finger on the pulse of if I'm happy with how these dollars are being spent? And then how can I make better decisions as quickly as possible so I can make sure my resources are protected? Yeah. Having a long runway, having ample budget is what's going to give people the most flexibility at the end of the day.
Yeah. So in terms of, if I may call it campaign creation, is it a DIY model? Tell me a little bit about how the platform works. Is it a high touch, low touch? What does the experience look like from a CPG brand standpoint or their agency?
Yeah. Our product philosophy is elegant solutions to complex problems. So the technology makes it quite simple. And then our team helps do some of the work on the back end. So it's not really intensive for brands. A brand would want to work with us to figure out, okay, what kind of promotion or what kind of offer do I want to run? At that point, we'll take over with getting everything set up and live. And then the brand is able to attach that offer to different campaigns. We provide something called journey tracking, so they can measure the efficacy against different channels. So how is my paid media performing versus an influencer, or how are my influencers performing against one another, for example? all of that data is being reported on real time in our client portal. So the brand's able to log in, look at their data whenever they'd like to. And then we have a team to support them as well. But running a brand is hard. Any way you slice it, we try to make that process easier and support the brand where we can. So it's not a lot of lift on their part.
Yeah, no, that's great. In terms of future iteration, what's the future of Vizer look like? What are you seeing in the future that you're beginning to invest against today?
We're constantly having those customer conversations I was referring to earlier, where we're figuring out, okay, what are the tangential problems that we can solve given the tech stack that we have available today? So I like to think of these offers as the core. This is what's allowing these transactions to occur at the end of the day. But there's a whole build around that in terms of we incent customers in the most effective way. So things like retargeting or finding ways to deliver a campaign to make it most enticing to the consumer. In addition to that, it's like, how do you put it into different ecosystems? So you mentioned loyalty, for example. There are things that we could power on the brand's behalf that would have more of a long-term customer relationship than a one-off campaign. So we're constantly looking at what's the tangential solutions we can build around this to make it as easy as possible for the brand and the shopper to access that offer and motivate the transaction.
Yeah. So the reason I reached out to you is because you came highly recommended from a mutual friend, Alicia Watkins at Paradox Retail, based in Bentonville, Arkansas. And she was really interested in your business because of the work you're doing with challenger brands. And I didn't really prepare you for this question, but I'm curious to what extent you're working with those challenger brands, those companies that are really working hard to go after the more established incumbents and disrupting categories, stealing market share. What's the role of Vizer in enabling some of those challenger brands?
Yeah, so we started working in that natural space, right? Mm-hmm. And looking at brands that are trying to do things differently and trying to come in and promote the ingredients or whatever their mission is and find ways to succeed and win in retail. And knowing how expensive it can be to be successful in retail, that's like a core pillar of our product, which is how do we democratize the tooling of this and make it as accessible to brands as possible. So we were talking about the importance of looking at your budget and making sure it's efficient. For a challenger brand, that can be 100 times more important because of the limited runway we were talking about and decreased access to capital that's happening in the CPG space. So the problem is the same at the end of the day, which is, where are my dollars going? Should I continue to invest in those channels? And how is that going to bring me the largest ROI in store? I think the need is much larger for a smaller brand or a challenger brand who has limited resources to spend. So we're looking at both sides of the fence, like how can we build this tool to serve everybody? And in doing so, I think it gives people the resources they need to be successful in retail and then scale their brand into either more doors or additional retailers by seeing success is really the goal at the end of the day.
Yeah. Whether it's a brand or an agency, what's the very best way for someone to engage with Vizer?
Super simple. Either going to our website, our LinkedIn page, reaching out to myself or my co-founder, Dylan. We would love to chat with any brand, learn more about what they're currently navigating and figure out if we can help them with their goals in retail. They would have to be on shelf in a retailer that accepts one of our offers, but given that that is accomplished, I think we can really help any kind of brand that's trying to see increased sales in store.
Yeah, very good. And we'll include your contact information, obviously, in the description. Sam Pantazopoulos, co-founder and CEO of Vizer. Thank you so much for making time to visit with me today, and really looking forward to sort of following your story and the future iterations of your business. Congratulations on your success and best wishes going forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and it's great to see you.
Have a great day.